Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the life you're living is not the life you dreamed of. You've been moving through the days on autopilot, repeating the same habits, the same mistakes, the same patterns, and wondering why nothing changes. The truth is, life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Every decision, every thought, every action, and even every hesitation shapes the person you are becoming. And the question you must ask yourself today is this: if you don't rebuild yourself, who will? Rebuilding yourself is not about blaming the past or wishing circumstances were different. It's about taking control, facing the truth, and committing to become the person you were meant to be. It's about looking in the mirror honestly and saying, I am responsible. I am capable. I can grow. Because no one else can live your life for you, and no one else can create the future you desire. The power to change, to rise, and to rebuild lies entirely in your hands. Today, we are going to explore how to take that power, how to transform your life from the inside out, and how to become the person you've always known you could be. Self-reflection is the quiet, honest conversation you have with yourself that few others ever witness. It is the mirror that shows not just the surface, but the depths of who you are, where you are, and who you might become. To rebuild yourself, you must first pause and look inward. You must set aside the noise of the world, the opinions of others, and even your own fears, and confront the truth of your life as it is today. Many people rush through life, constantly moving from one task to another, one challenge to the next, never stopping to ask themselves the most important question: am I living the life I want, or am I merely drifting? Self-reflection demands honesty, and it demands courage. It is easy to think that you are fine because the world tells you so. It is easy to assume that the habits you have, the routines you follow, and the patterns you repeat are sufficient. But if you are not growing, if you are not improving, if you are not evolving, then you are slowly letting time pass you by, and the world changes while you remain stagnant. When you reflect, you take stock of your life in a way that is purposeful. You examine your actions, your successes, your failures, and your thoughts. You ask yourself which choices brought you closer to your goals and which ones pulled you away. It is not enough to recognize your failures. You must understand them. Why did certain things not work out? What part of you contributed to that outcome? What could you have done differently? Similarly, when you succeed, reflection allows you to understand what actions, mindset, or decisions created that success so that you can replicate them in the future. Self-reflection is the compass that shows you direction. Without it, rebuilding yourself becomes like trying to build a house without knowing where the foundation is. You might throw bricks in random directions, but the structure will never stand strong because it lacks alignment with reality. This practice also exposes the habits, beliefs, and behaviors that have been holding you back. Sometimes these are subtle, almost invisible, and that is why they are so dangerous. Maybe you have a tendency to procrastinate, to fear failure, or to seek approval from others before acting. Maybe you have a mindset that success is for someone else, that your dreams are too big, or that your circumstances define your future. These are not permanent truths, but they are powerful forces if left unchecked. Through self-reflection, you bring them to light. You begin to see patterns that you once ignored. You realize that growth is not just about adding something new to your life, but sometimes about removing what no longer serves you. You can identify which thoughts, behaviors, and attitudes must be shed so that new, constructive patterns can take their place. Self-reflection is also the starting point of responsibility. When you truly understand where you are, you realize that you cannot blame circumstances, other people, or luck for your situation. You begin to see the role you played in shaping your life, and more importantly, the role you can play in transforming it. This is empowering because once you take ownership, you gain control. You realize that rebuilding yourself is not something that happens to you. It is something you actively create. Every choice you make from this point onward can be intentional. Every habit you form can be designed to move you closer to the person you want to become. Self-reflection gives you the clarity to act with purpose rather than react out of habit. Finally, self-reflection is not a one-time event but a continuous practice. Life is constantly changing and you are constantly changing. To rebuild yourself effectively, you must pause regularly, examine your progress, evaluate your actions, and recalibrate. It is in these moments of introspection that insight arises, that lessons are learned, and that growth accelerates. Without self-reflection, rebuilding yourself is like walking in the dark without a flashlight. With it, every step you take is guided, deliberate, and meaningful. It sets the stage for all the work that follows, because you cannot rebuild what you do not first understand. You cannot create a new life without first seeing clearly the life you have been living. Self-reflection is the doorway to transformation, and through it, you begin the journey of building a stronger, wiser, and more intentional version of yourself. Limiting beliefs are invisible chains that bind the mind and prevent you from stepping into the life you are truly capable of living. They are not imposed by others. Often, they are self-imposed, formed quietly over time through experiences, failures, and the repeated messages we accept as truth. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve success. I've always failed at this. Or, this is just the way I am. These are just a few examples of the subtle but powerful thoughts that can control your life without you even realizing it. The problem with these beliefs is that they are rarely questioned. They hide in the corners of the mind, shaping decisions, influencing habits, and limiting potential. The first step in rebuilding yourself is to identify these beliefs and confront them with unwavering honesty. You must ask yourself which of my thoughts are empowering me and which are holding me back. Too often, people accept their internal dialogue as reality, when in truth, much of it is fiction, a story that was written long ago and repeated so often it feels like fact. Once you recognize a limiting belief, the next step is to understand its origin. Many of these beliefs are born from experiences, failures, or the opinions of others. Maybe someone told you at a young age that you weren't capable of achieving something, and you internalized it. Maybe you attempted a goal and failed, and you allowed that failure to define you. Maybe societal standards or cultural expectations created invisible boundaries in your mind. Whatever the source, the belief is simply an idea, not an unchangeable truth. Understanding that it was learned, not inherent, is liberating. It allows you to step back and see that the belief can also be unlearned. Rebuilding yourself begins when you realize that you are not the sum of your past experiences, but the architect of your future possibilities. The act of letting go of limiting beliefs requires courage. It is uncomfortable because it challenges the familiar. Even when a belief holds you back, it is known and predictable. To release it is to step into uncertainty, and uncertainty can feel threatening. Yet, growth never happens within the comfort zone. When you choose to question a limiting belief, you begin to test it against reality. You experiment with new thoughts, new behaviors, and new outcomes that contradict the old story. Slowly, you start to see that the world is not as restricted as your mind once told you. You realize that ability is not fixed, that failure is not final, and that success is not reserved for someone else. Releasing a limiting belief is like opening a window in a room that has long been closed. Suddenly, fresh air and light enter, and you can breathe freely, see clearly, and act with renewed energy. Replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones is equally important. It is not enough to simply discard an old belief. You must consciously create a new narrative that aligns with the person you want to become. Affirmations, visualization, and consistent practice can rewire the mind. For example, if you believed you could not succeed in business, adopting the belief that I am capable of learning, growing, and achieving success through persistence changes the lens through which you view challenges. Every decision, every action, and every setback is then seen not as proof of limitation, but as a stepping stone toward growth. Over time, these new beliefs take root and guide behavior in a productive, forward-moving direction. Letting go of limiting beliefs also requires surrounding yourself with the right influences. Thoughts are contagious, and the company you keep can either reinforce old limitations or support new possibilities. Seek people who challenge you positively, who inspire growth, who believe in potential rather than permanence. Engage with ideas, books, and experiences that expand your understanding of what is possible. By doing so, you create an environment where empowering beliefs flourish, making it easier to release those that no longer serve you. The process of shedding limiting beliefs is ongoing. Old patterns may resurface under stress, fear, or doubt. When this happens, self-awareness becomes your ally. Recognize the thought, question it, and replace it with truth. With consistent effort, what once seemed impossible becomes achievable, and what once felt like a boundary disappears. Rebuilding yourself is a journey that begins in the mind. Letting go of limiting beliefs is not just an act of thought. It is a declaration of freedom. It is the conscious decision to refuse the invisible chains that have held you back and to step boldly into a life defined not by fear, but by possibility. The moment you release what is false, you make room for what is real, your potential, your strength, and the remarkable future you are capable of creating. Taking responsibility for your life is the cornerstone of true personal transformation. It is one of the most powerful decisions a person can make because it shifts you from being a passenger in your own life to becoming the driver. So often, people drift through life blaming circumstances, other people, or sheer luck for where they are. They point fingers at the economy, their upbringing, bad teachers, or missed opportunities, and in doing so, they give away their power. The truth is that while you cannot always control what happens to you, you can control how you respond to it. Taking responsibility means recognizing that your choices, actions, and reactions shape the trajectory of your life. It is not about blame or guilt, it is about ownership. Until you accept full responsibility, the process of rebuilding yourself is incomplete because transformation requires control, and control is impossible without ownership. Responsibility begins with mindset. It requires a clear-eyed view of yourself and your situation, without excuses or rationalizations. It means being honest about where you have fallen short, where you have avoided action, or where you have allowed fear to dominate. Many people resist this because it is uncomfortable. It is easier to be a victim of circumstance, to say, I couldn't because of X, or it's not my fault. But each time you choose the easier path of blame, you give away a piece of your future. Taking responsibility is the opposite of this. It is saying, I may not control everything that happens to me, but I control me. I control my response. I am the author of my life story, and I will not let others write it for me. It is a mindset that transforms setbacks into lessons, failures into feedback, and challenges into opportunities for growth. Taking responsibility also requires action. Owning your life is not simply thinking about it or acknowledging it mentally. It is demonstrated through consistent, deliberate choices. If you are unhappy with your health, your career, or your relationships, taking responsibility means doing something about it rather than waiting for change to arrive from the outside. It means seeking knowledge, learning new skills, and being proactive in creating the conditions you want. Life does not hand out transformation on a silver platter. It demands effort, persistence, and accountability. Every day you wake up is a chance to exercise responsibility, to make one more choice that moves you closer to the life you desire. No one else can do it for you, and no one else can fully guide you. The moment you stop blaming and start acting, you begin to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Taking responsibility also strengthens resilience. When you stop blaming and start owning, failures stop being disasters and start being opportunities. Every setback becomes a lesson because you focus not on what went wrong in the world, but on what you can learn and do differently next time. You stop being paralyzed by disappointment or fear, because you recognize that no external force has the power to define your life unless you allow it. The responsibility mindset creates a sense of empowerment because it reminds you that no matter what circumstances come your way, your ability to respond wisely and courageously remains within your control. It turns obstacles into stepping stones and adversity into fuel for growth. Responsibility also demands humility. Accepting that you are accountable for your life does not mean you are perfect or that you have all the answers. It means acknowledging mistakes, learning from them, and being willing to adjust your course. Many people resist responsibility because it exposes them to self-examination and criticism, but true growth cannot exist without this willingness. By embracing accountability, you also inspire trust and respect from others because people see that you do not make excuses, that you face challenges head-on, and that you take ownership of your commitments. Responsibility, therefore, is not only a personal principle but a social one. It builds character, credibility, and confidence. Finally, taking responsibility for your life is liberating. It frees you from the chains of victimhood, from the endless cycle of blame, and from the illusion that the world owes you something. When you accept that your life is your responsibility, you gain freedom, the freedom to choose your path, the freedom to correct mistakes, the freedom to pursue your goals relentlessly. Rebuilding yourself starts with this freedom, because without it, every effort to improve is undermined by doubt, excuses, or reliance on others. Responsibility is the foundation upon which every other step of transformation rests. It is the point at which you stop waiting for life to happen to you and start making life happen through your own decisions, your own discipline, and your own vision. It is the first act of courage, the first act of ownership, and the first step in creating a life that reflects not your circumstances, but your potential. Developing new habits is the bridge between intention and transformation. It is one thing to know that change is necessary, to recognize the areas of your life that need rebuilding. But it is an entirely different thing to act consistently and deliberately in a way that reshapes who you are. Habits are the invisible architecture of life. They determine whether you succeed or stagnate, whether you grow or remain the same. The truth is that small, repeated actions create enormous outcomes over time. Every great achievement, every remarkable life is built on a foundation of habits practiced consistently, day after day, long after initial motivation has faded. Motivation is fleeting, but habits endure. To rebuild yourself, you must learn to harness the power of consistent action and let it reshape your identity, step by step, until your daily life aligns with your vision. The first step in developing new habits is awareness. You must understand which behaviors serve you and which do not. Too often, people attempt to add positive habits without addressing the negative ones that sabotage progress. If you want to be healthier, more productive, or more successful, it is not enough to simply eat better, exercise, or work harder. You must also examine the habits that have been holding you back: late nights, distractions, procrastination, excuses, or self-destructive thought patterns. Awareness is about honesty, about shining a light on every small action and choice that contributes to the life you currently live. Once you see the patterns clearly, you can begin to decide which behaviors to replace, which to reinforce, and which to eliminate entirely. This clarity is critical because without it, attempts at change are scattered and ineffective, like planting seeds in barren soil. Consistency is the true engine of habit formation. One cannot expect transformation to occur from sporadic effort or occasional bursts of energy. Habits are formed through repetition, through the daily commitment to act, even when you do not feel like it, even when progress is slow or invisible. It is the repeated discipline, not the occasional inspiration, that reshapes character and behavior. This is why so many people fail at change. They rely solely on motivation, which fluctuates with emotion, instead of creating systems of action that persist regardless of mood. Developing new habits is about designing a life in which the right actions happen naturally, almost automatically, because they have been practiced enough times to become a part of who you are. Small steps are often the most powerful. People frequently attempt drastic changes, trying to overhaul their lives overnight, only to become overwhelmed and quit. The secret is to focus on manageable, incremental improvements. Just as a single drop of water eventually shapes stone, small, consistent actions shape your life over time. Reading 10 pages a day builds knowledge. Exercising 10 minutes a day builds strength. Choosing one productive action over distraction builds momentum. These small actions compound, quietly but powerfully, creating a life that reflects the person you are becoming. The key is to start small, be consistent, and trust the process, even when results are not immediately visible. Accountability is another critical component of developing new habits. Transformation is rarely achieved in isolation. When you commit to new habits, it is important to create systems that support consistency, tracking your progress, setting clear goals, and enlisting accountability partners who encourage and challenge you. This external reinforcement ensures that you do not drift back into old behaviors. At the same time, it helps train your internal discipline, because every time you honor a commitment to yourself or someone else, you strengthen the part of you that is capable of follow-through. Habits are not just about action, they are about building character and proving to yourself that you can do what you set out to do, day after day. Even when it is difficult, developing new habits is not merely about changing what you do, it is about changing who you are. Every habit reinforces identity. If you exercise consistently, you become someone who is disciplined and values health. If you read consistently, you become someone who is knowledgeable and curious. If you act consistently on your goals, you become someone who achieves. Habits shape not only outcomes but the very core of your character. To rebuild yourself, you must align your daily actions with the person you want to become. Because the small decisions you make repeatedly determine your identity. Finally, patience is essential. New habits do not transform life overnight. The process is slow, gradual, and sometimes invisible. There will be days of struggle, moments of doubt, and occasional lapses. Yet, every day you return to the habit, every day you make the choice to act in alignment with your goals, you are building momentum that cannot be stopped. Over time, these small, consistent actions create a life that is dramatically different from the one you began with. Developing new habits is not just a tool for change. It is the very method through which transformation occurs, and it is the bridge that connects who you are today with the person you are capable of becoming. Embracing change and adaptation is one of the most vital skills for rebuilding yourself. Yet, it is also one of the most challenging. Change is often seen as uncomfortable, even threatening, because it forces us out of the familiar and into the unknown. Yet, every moment of growth, Every step toward a better life requires movement beyond comfort. Life is not static, and the people who succeed are not those who resist its currents, but those who learn to navigate them with courage, flexibility, and creativity. To rebuild yourself, you must cultivate the mindset that change is not something to fear, but something to welcome as a teacher, a guide, and an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The first aspect of embracing change is recognizing that nothing in life is permanent. Circumstances shift, relationships evolve, industries transform, and personal challenges arise without warning. When we cling too tightly to the past or insist on holding everything in place, we limit our potential and invite frustration and disappointment. Change is inevitable, but your response to it is what determines your success. By accepting this reality, you free yourself from resistance and open the door to possibility. Instead of fearing the unknown, you can begin to view change as a chance to learn, improve, and step closer to the life you want. Each transition, no matter how difficult, carries lessons that can shape your character and expand your abilities if you are willing to pay attention and adapt. Adaptation is the practical side of embracing change. It requires flexibility, creativity, and the willingness to adjust your plans, your thinking, and sometimes even your goals. Life rarely unfolds exactly as we imagine, and those who cling rigidly to one path often find themselves frustrated or stuck. To rebuild yourself, you must develop the ability to pivot when necessary, to modify your strategies, and to keep moving forward even when the route is unfamiliar. Adaptation does not mean abandoning your vision or settling for less. It means finding new ways to achieve the outcomes you desire. It is the skill of working with reality rather than against it, and it is one of the most powerful ways to turn obstacles into opportunities. Embracing change also requires a mindset that views failure not as defeat, but as feedback. When circumstances shift or plans fail, the natural response is often fear, shame, or regret. Yet these moments are the greatest teachers if you approach them correctly. Every unexpected outcome carries information about what works, what doesn't, and what needs to change. Those who adapt are not those who never fail. They are those who use failure as a guide, adjusting their approach, learning, and trying again with greater wisdom. Rebuilding yourself requires the courage to take action, even when failure is a possibility, and the intelligence to extract lessons from every misstep so that each setback becomes a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Flexibility in thought is just as important as flexibility in action. Embracing change means questioning assumptions, challenging old patterns, and being willing to consider new perspectives. Often, the beliefs, routines, or strategies that once served us become outdated or limiting. Being able to recognize this and make adjustments is critical. When you are rigid in thinking, you are blind to new opportunities. When you are flexible, you see options where others see obstacles, solutions where others see problems, and paths forward where others see dead ends. The willingness to adapt mentally is what allows you to respond effectively to the unpredictable nature of life, turning challenges into growth and setbacks into preparation for future success. Another important part of embracing change is cultivating resilience. Change often brings discomfort, uncertainty, and even loss. It challenges our confidence and tests our persistence. Rebuilding yourself requires the inner strength to withstand these pressures, to keep moving forward despite fear, doubt, or temporary failure. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It is about enduring it, learning from it, and emerging stronger on the other side. When you embrace change with resilience, you transform obstacles into opportunities, challenges into lessons, and disruption into growth. Ultimately, embracing change and adaptation is about taking control of your own evolution. It is the conscious decision to refuse stagnation, to refuse fear, and to actively shape your response to the world. It is about recognizing that the only constant in life is change itself, and that your ability to adapt determines whether you remain stuck or grow into the person you are meant to be. By welcoming change, by learning to adapt with intelligence and courage, you unlock possibilities that were previously hidden, and you lay the foundation for a rebuilt self that is stronger, wiser, and more capable of thriving in any environment. Vision and goals are the compass and roadmap of your life, the elements that transform vague desires into purposeful action and chaotic effort into focused progress. Rebuilding yourself without a clear vision is like trying to navigate a forest at night without a map or a light. You move, but you do not know where you are going, and your energy is wasted in random directions. Vision is not simply a wish or a fleeting hope. It is a clear, compelling picture of who you want to become and what you want to achieve. It is the mental image of the life that is possible when you bring your strengths, efforts, and courage into alignment. Without vision, habits, responsibility, adaptation, and self-reflection all lack direction. And even the most disciplined efforts can lead only to a life that is ordinary or unfulfilled. To rebuild yourself, you must first define the destination, because only then can every step you take be intentional and every action have meaning. Goals are the practical expression of vision. They break down the big picture into manageable, actionable steps. A vision without goals is merely a dream, beautiful but intangible, inspiring but powerless. Goals create a path that turns ambition into reality, providing clarity about what to do today, this week, and this month to move closer to the life you desire. They allow you to measure progress, celebrate milestones, and maintain momentum. Setting goals requires more than vague intentions. It requires specificity, focus, and deadlines. The more precise your goals, the more tangible your progress becomes, and the more confident you feel in your ability to rebuild yourself. Each goal acts as a stepping stone, guiding you from who you are today to who you are becoming. Vision also shapes your mindset. When you have a clear picture of the life you are building, decisions become easier, distractions lose their power, and setbacks are easier to navigate. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable take on a new meaning because you view them in the context of your larger purpose. Obstacles are no longer reasons to quit, but tests that help refine your approach, strengthen your skills, and reaffirm your commitment. The mind needs a target. Without it, energy dissipates in random patterns. With vision, every choice, every action, every sacrifice is directed toward building the person you want to be and achieving the life you envision. A vision must be compelling enough to motivate you through difficulty. Life is unpredictable, and the journey to rebuild yourself is rarely linear or easy. There will be moments when progress feels slow, when setbacks shake your confidence, or when distractions tempt you to give up. A strong vision acts as a magnet, pulling you forward even when the path is unclear. It reminds you of the why behind your actions, giving meaning to the daily discipline, the hard decisions, and the uncomfortable changes you must make. Without vision, the energy required to rebuild yourself dissipates in doubt, procrastination, and indecision. With it, every step becomes intentional, every challenge becomes an opportunity, and every action contributes to a future you are actively creating. Setting goals aligned with your vision also fosters accountability. When you know exactly what you want and have outlined steps to get there, it becomes impossible to drift passively through life. Each goal serves as a checkpoint, a measure of progress, and a motivator to stay on course. You can track your actions, adjust your strategies, and recalibrate when necessary. Goals provide structure to the rebuilding process because they translate the abstract energy of ambition into concrete actions, ensuring that your efforts are not wasted and that your vision is gradually transformed into reality. Another critical aspect of vision and goals is adaptability. Life is fluid, circumstances change, and opportunities appear in unexpected ways. A vision provides the guiding direction, but the path to reach it may require adjustment. Goals must be flexible enough to accommodate new information, lessons learned, and unforeseen challenges without compromising the overall destination. Rebuilding yourself is not about rigidly following a plan. It is about maintaining focus on the end result while skillfully navigating the terrain along the way. This combination of clarity and flexibility allows you to respond intelligently to change while remaining committed to your ultimate purpose. Finally, vision and goals cultivate hope, motivation, and purpose. They transform intention into action, confusion into clarity, and potential into achievement. When you know where you are going and can see the steps to get there, rebuilding yourself becomes a process of deliberate creation rather than a series of random attempts. Vision and goals give your life direction, structure, and meaning. They are the driving force behind every other principle of transformation, because without them, reflection, responsibility, habits, and adaptation have no context. With them, every effort is amplified, every challenge is manageable, and every day becomes an opportunity to move closer to the person you are destined to become. As we come to the end of this journey together, remember this: rebuilding yourself is not a one-time event, it is a lifelong commitment. It begins with self-reflection, understanding who you are and where you are today. It requires letting go of the beliefs that limit you, taking full responsibility for your choices, developing habits that support your growth, embracing change and adaptation, and holding a clear vision with actionable goals. Each of these steps is a building block, and when combined, they create a life of purpose, resilience, and fulfillment. The path of transformation is not always easy. There will be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But every step you take toward rebuilding yourself strengthens your character, sharpens your focus, and moves you closer to the life you've imagined. Remember, you are the architect of your future. No circumstance, no obstacle, and no person can define who you are unless you allow it. The power to rise, to change, and to become your best self has always been within you. You simply need to claim it. So go forward with courage, with discipline, and with the unwavering belief that you can rebuild yourself into the person you were meant to be. Good luck on this incredible journey, and thank you for letting me share this message with you today.